Hey there, folks. So, last episode we went through and set up saving our player camera rotation, as well as fixing a bug that I had found with our local heat source actor. Let's load in here. As you can see, where our camera rotation is now being adjusted when we load. And fixed a bug we had with the local heat source, as I mentioned. This episode, I want to go through and cover setting up new game configuration options. That's things because it's a survival game that I'm intending to make. That's going to be things like, as we have with the Chrono Manager, the day length, things like that. It's also going to be things like head bob, which I haven't decided if I want to include or not, and those sort of settings. However, there is one other bug I found when I was doing some code cleanup between episodes that I did want to cover quickly. So, first off, though, what we're going to do is we're going to close out of the editor. I'd launched that through Visual Studio. But the bug I found is actually in the Chrono Manager. I just had a little comment in here to tell myself where it was, which is what I deleted. So I'm going to save that. So we have, within the Chrono Manager, we set up this Boolean flag, time was updated, which was used to update time. We do a time decay, we advance our minutes, that falls through, and that sets a Boolean time was updated equals true, which we were using to make a broadcast every tick. Well, that was make a broadcast if it had been updated every tick. And what was happening is after the first time this updated, it just broadcast every tick, which is not what I wanted. That's actually really inefficient because we're now broadcasting out and we're forcing all of these time change any actor that is subscribed to the time change to have to update every tick as well. And it's a really simple bug. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to just do a Control F, find all in the current document. Pull this up here. I know this, unfortunately, font doesn't change. Can I zoom that in? No, I can't. You can see we have nowhere in here. We're actually setting it back to false. And that's what the issue is. So all we need to do is quite literally time was updated equals false. Oh, I got cap locks on, apparently. And we don't need that to be the defined false. But yeah, so that was just a small bug I wanted to address right at the start because we have this was a huge inefficiency the way that was happening, because what would happen is we'd fall through because we made a time change and we're just broadcasting this every tick after the first time. Now, going back to what I mentioned, how I wanted to start setting up new game configuration options. So what we're going to do with that, and just as an example, we have this here. We have our day length, which is 30, 60, 120, 180, 240, 300. You can expand this or make these however you want if you're wanting to do a predetermined day length like that. So either way, what we are going to do is we actually need to go to our game instance to start with here. Let me just get back to that. We're going to open that up. And actually I closed out of the editor too early, so I'm going to open the editor quickly. Because we need to add a new data type. So just going to launch into the editor. This shouldn't take any time at all because I just added that one code change in there. See, it's loading up real quick. All right, so as I mentioned, we do need to add a new data type. So we'll pull over our content browser, go to our C++ classes. Come on, editor. Project public, and then in the public folder, new C++ class, none. And as with every other type, data type, we need to specifically select that folder. And this is going to be a struct, and it's going to be a struct that's going to hold all of the game-specific configuration information. So f game configuration. We're going to create that class. It's going to go through here, and as soon as we get the reload pop-up, I'm going to say yes, because we don't need to keep the editor open. We're going to be rebuilding after. But so just while I wait, instead of pausing the video, so there's going to be a bunch of configuration items we're going to be adding slowly as we go through the series. It's going to be things like character head bob, day length, and that's going to have us constantly coming back to this configuration struct. Actually, start cleaning this up while we wait. That's going to have us constantly coming back to this configuration struct, adding new items and adding new ways to pull that information from our game instance. That is going to be based on how you want to do it as well. So you could have your various classes that need to know about your game configuration. It's still doing its thing. There we go. Okay, we should get the reload in a second here. Stop debugging. Yes. So you could have the various classes that need to know about your game configuration just pull the game configuration entirely itself. Or you could have your game instance set up where it returns the specific information. So either way, though, we're going to start with that. And we'll just take a look at one of our other structs that we have set up. So we're going to take a look at salvage item. Just for comparison, you can see, and I've done this before. First of all, we have an include that we need to generate. So we're going to add that. Include f game configuration dot generated dot h. Now this is going to throw an IntelliSense error until the first time we build after. It's not an issue. It might actually fail a build. I can't remember if we do that before or after the first build. And then obviously we've got our generic stuff we're going to pull there. UStruct, which is the decorator for Unreal Engine to say this is a structure, blueprint type, so we can access it through the UI in the editor. And then it's just going to be f game configuration. And as with all of the other structs, I use the generated UStruct body, and everything in here is going to be public. I'm not going to make anything in here hidden. So, a couple of things we're going to need. The very first one is obviously we're going to want our day length. So I'm just going to go over here to our day length source, grab this include. You can type this out. I choose not to, just simply because if I can avoid typing something out that I'm going to screw up spelling, I will. So we want U property, visible anywhere, blueprint read only. Now because, and sorry, I'm going to stop here a second. Because this is only going to be exposed really to the game instance, the visible anywhere, blueprint read only, well, visible anywhere specifically, isn't needed because your game instance you're not really going to see. It's something that's in the background. But I add that in just for consistency. We want this to also have save game. And then it's public, so we don't need to worry about the meta. And then we want e day length. Length of day. And we're going to give that a default value. And do I have that open here? I'm going to say 60 minutes equals e day length min 60. So that's a property that we're going to use to go through and basically set within the game instance, store it, and then pull it out from various different actors that we need to set this value sort of at begin play. So Now that we've got that, and this is the only one we're going to add right now. Actually, no, I'm going to add the head bob, even though I'm not sure if I'm going to use it. Bool b enable head bob equals false. Actually, no, true, because I want to leave that on by default. And actually, no, I'm going to add another one in here. Bool b enable third person equals false. So these are going to be 3 configuration items, and as I mentioned, we're going to expand on this, but 3 configuration items that we are going to use within our editor to get things set up, to get things moving, and apply these as we go through the project. Now, we're going to go back to our game instance, but grab this include just quickly. So back in our game instance header, I'm actually going to add this to the include section there, just because I want this to be referenced. I don't want it to be exclusive to the source file. And then we're going to have a private U property. We're not going to add anything to this. Actually, no, we will. So I want visible anywhere, blueprint read only, and then because we're putting this in, we need meta equals allow private access equals true. Tool tip equals per game configuration. Actually, not per game, per save configuration information. And with, oh, we need another close bracket there. And this is going to be an F game configuration. Game config data. Now, from that, you guys can probably guess this is per save. So we're also going to need to add that to our save. Open up our save game source and our save game header. In here, we are just going to actually need to include that header in here as well. F game configuration, game config. So we have that in there, and then we need our public getter and setter. Now again, I can't remember if I mentioned this in the episode where we set up the save actor. Technically, because this is a single player game, I'm not expecting any point there to be multiplayer functionality. You don't need to do private with public getter and setter. You could just make everything public. I prefer not to do that, just simply because it's good practice to have these things privately locked, and they have to be get and set specifically with functions. So void set game config, F game configure, use the wrong bracket there, F game configuration, config, and F game configuration get game config. And then we just need to define these as we've done with everything else. These are really simple ones. So create the definitions. Yes, I know there's keyboard shortcuts. I just personally prefer using the mouse. Game config equals config. Return a game config. So that's the changes to our save game. Now we can go back to our game instance. So first thing I want to do is make sure this is saved and loaded. So we're going to go to our source file for our game instance. Go to our save function. Oh yeah, they're dev save. Sorry, that's what. So once we've done all of this, we have these here, and then this is where we're writing to that. So we're just going to change that we'll add in here, I should say, not change. Save game object, set game config, and I've already forgotten what I called this. Game config data. Game config data. And close that out. And then, so we have load game. So I'm going to there. And now we have where we're starting to grab things here. So I'm going to do this. Game config data equals save game object get game config. So now that just includes that information in the save and load portion of our logic. So that keeps all of that consistent. And I do recommend, if you're going to be doing things that you want saved, get your save logic done first. It means you're not going to forget about it, because I've personally done this numerous times in the past where I've got, oh yeah, here's this new cool idea, I'm going to add this in, I'm going to put all the logic in for it, and then completely forgetting about saving it. I go through and a little while later I'll test it. I was like, why is this not saving? And then you have to go through and figure it all out. So either way, now that we've got that, let's don't need this open, that open, that source file, or that header file. So with this right now, we have 3 properties: day length, head bob, third person. So what I want to do here, these are going to be public functions. I'm actually going to define a region for this. Pragma region get configuration. Pragma end region. And just like we were doing with the save object, I want some getters and setters. So void set enable head bob const bool reference be enabled bool get head bob enabled void set enable third person const bool be enabled bool, actually this bool can be a const, and so can this one when we get there, get third person enabled. Now these are, and I want to be clear, these are settings that are defined when you start a new game and cannot be changed. If you want things to be like, want configuration items that are going to be changed through like your options menu, this process that I'm doing right now won't work. Void set day length const e day length. Do we have that in here? What do we call that? That's e day length. Do we not have that available to us? I thought we'd have that up here with, it should be passed through that one. Well, I'm going to just assume it should be, and we just have an IntelliSense error. Yes, it is. All right, so now we want these to be exposed, the set functions, I should say. We want these to be exposed to blueprints and to UI, because we're going to be doing that through our main menu setup. So U function blueprint callable. Actually, I'm going to add this to all of them. And then specifically for our gets, we want them to be blueprint pure. Actually, I'm going to copy that and replace these. And the whole reason for this is there's no logic to execute. So I'm going to quickly set these definitions up. Move you over there so you're in line. Apparently rearranging my tabs caused it to slow down. Okay, so now one of the main reasons for this is I was going through and I was looking at our tick on our stat line, and I realized that wasn't being adjusted for however long the day was. It was quite literally being based on real world time. I'll just bring that up quickly just to show you what I was talking about here. So we have our, where's our component tick? Am I blind? Tick component. So we're having our delta time pass through. We're using that. We're passing that into tick stats. Tick stats, we're passing that through into our various functions of stamina, hunger, thirst, and if we're not dehydrated or starving, we're passing that into health. And if we go to that definition for our struct, we're not doing anything here. Like this is all based on real world. So I wanted to go through and find a way to adjust that based on our game day length. So, and I've already forgotten what I named my struct. Game config data. All right, so save this. Return game config data dot length of day, and then it's game config. I hate IntelliSense that the second you make a typo, it stops working. Equals length. And we're just going to do these for the other four functions. So return third person. Return all right, so we've got these in there. They're very basic ones, and this is where I mentioned you could either have a single function here that is, or two functions of set game configuration and get game configuration. However, I don't see a reason to expose your third person enabled to every other object. It's moving data around that's not needed. So yes, you're going to end up with a absolute butt ton of functions for this, because you can need two for every configuration. But saying that, actually we're going to change something. But we, in my opinion, at least the gets you need to be broken down. And that's where I just said I'm going to change something. So we are going to add another function up here. Void set game configuration. And that is going to be an F game configuration, not voice void config. And this is what I was just talking about, actually. So I'm going to have a single function that's used to set the information as well as the independent ones. These you could use for making updates at runtime, like in middle of the game you want to enable head bob, things like that. But either way. Game configuration data equals config. So we've got the basics here set up for saving that. What I'm going to do, we're going to build things here quick. This may take a little bit because we are starting to make changes in places that are going to, 7 different actors. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pause the video and I will be back once we're in the editor. All right, so we're back in the editor. What we're going to start with is we're going to pull over our content browser. I'm trying to remember where I set our main menu UI. Here we go. It was in a project file. Load game button. This is something else I have an issue is background. Oh, that's the actual button for the individual games. Yeah. So going into our main menu here, we're going to want to do some additional work. So we obviously have our load game section here. I'm going to hide that so we don't see it. We have our primary menu. What we're going to want to do here is add another stack box to our primary canvas. So I'm going to go stack. And you don't have to use a stack box for this. You can use whatever you want. As I mentioned numerous times in the past, UI is not my strong suit. We're going to bring that in here. We're going to name this new game settings. We're going to hide our primary one. And we're going to make sure this is a variable. And let's just anchor that in the middle. And I'm going to go -50, -15, so it's in the middle. And this we're just going through to make sure all this is working. So I'm going to go into our graph. I'll click load game. We've got our various functions here for that. Load game, on click new game button. This is what we need to break out from here. So I'm going to break this off. And what I'm going to do actually is bring this over, add a comment, start load level behavior. And that's what this is for. So I'm just wanting to save that because we do want to keep that. We're going to move that over here. And let's find, what do we call that? New game settings? Menu. I want to add that on there so it's clear that it's the menu. So new game setting menu. We're going to go visibility. Set visibility visible. And we are going to get the primary menu. Visibility. Set visibility hidden. Now, just in case there is, for some reason, a noticeable lag between these two functions, I do always like to set the hide first and then the show. And that's just if for some reason, like right here, the game decides to render a frame, they're not on top of each other. There's nothing. So we've got that. And what I'm going to do, just so we can make sure this is working, I'm going to move this out of the way. Maps, main menu, open up this level. And this is just, I want to go through, I realized last time when I set up the menu, I did a lot of just, here's all of it. And I didn't really cover exactly what each step was doing. So we're in our main menu. Let's just open up our level blueprint quickly. I want to check. I'm pretty sure it's our level blueprint that has our delete character logic. Yes. So in here, if we can get a player pawn, we're going to be removing it, set it to UI only, and adding that on there. So play, and this should give us our new game. Now when we click new game, it should just make the screen go blank, which it does. So I'm going to stop that. We're going to go back to our widget here, our main menu widget, I should say, just for clarity. And now it's up to you how you want to have all of these set up. What I want to do here is I want this to, first of all, be a vertical stack box. And then I want individual stack boxes underneath, because I want text on one side and the input on the other side. So I want text. Actually, do we have grid? We do have a grid panel. So actually, no, I'm going to get rid of the stack box, the internal stack box. I'm going to add the grid panel. We want 2 columns, and for each row, we want a row for each item. So we've got 3 items. And then underneath that, I want another stack box. So grid panel, stack box. Set these both to fill. So let's go text block, add that to the grid panel. And this again is going to be down to your UI person, how this is set up. So where is the size to content? I think that's how you set these up. So text block 1, we want this to be day length. Text box 2, we want this to be enable third person. Text box 3, enable head bob. Okay, so obviously we're going to need to expand our main menu here, so we're going to drag this down. Now we need to set the grid positions on these as well. So we want column 0, row 0 on the first one, column 0, row 1 on the second one, and row 2 on the third one. So you can see here we've got them now in that specific order. Let's change the font on these. These are pretty big. What's that? Change that to 12, half size. And then I want these vertically centered. Is that going to let me do that? If I use the right one. I want left adjust, vertical center. Left adjust, vertical center. Left adjust, vertical center. Okay, so we have that there. I'm going to drag this over a little more. Checkbox. Okay, so we want to add these to the grid panel, 2 of those, and you want to name them very clear. So this is third person enabled CB, checkbox, head bob enabled CB, again checkbox. So now third person is row 1, so we want the checkbox to be row 1, column 1. It helps if I hit 1, not F1. And now that moves that over. And we want that to be center aligned, horizontally center, horizontally vertical. And we're going to adjust this because obviously these widths aren't correct. Head bob enabled, we want row 2, column 1. And we want the same thing there. We want middle for both. Now, is it drop down? I can never remember what the enumerator would be. Special effects, panel, input, editable, multi-line, control, combo box. I think that's the one we want, combo box. Yes, that is. So we want the combo box to be row 0, column 1. for that, now that we've got this set up, let's go through and get our spacing set up a little better here. So grab our main menu setting. I'll go drag this over to looks roughly right. Now in our stack box at the bottom, we want 2 buttons. And that's just for the way this is being set up for now. I'm going to add both of those to the stack box, not as a sub. We want these to be set to fill, and we want to give them some padding. I'm going to give them 10. Yeah. And then we need to sort out our vertical use here, but let's get these text. Add child to both of these. So this is going to be new game back button and new game start button. And these are again clearly named so you know what their purpose is. I'm going to set these fonts back to, we'll say 12, and we're going to say back, and we're going to set this one to start and 12. And let's get some of this spacing. Actually, let's add some padding to our grid. And then we want our grid to take up 90% and our stack panel to take up 10%. So set those there. Okay, that's obviously not enough. 30. So 70-30. Now let's see if that fixes it. 0.7. Yeah, that's about right. So actually let's do 75-25 and that should balance it out. All right, so now that we've got that, we're going to just compile things here. And again, just so you can see everything's working. Well, oh, it's not. Well, that's because, and this isn't me doing this on purpose. I genuinely forgot. But the reason being for that is the initial visibility on our new game settings menu is set to not hit testable self only. We want that to be hidden. So we're going to compile, move this back over. There we go. So click new game and we get our new game window showing up. Now we can go through and our checkboxes work, but there's nothing in our drop down. So what we're going to do here, we need to populate that drop down. Go into our graph and on construct, well, we already have our game instance and we have everything here, but it's not going to do us any good because we're setting it. We're not loading it. However, as part of the event construct is where we want to populate it. So what did we name our, we didn't, day length drop down. Again, try to use meaningful names so that over here in your panel, you can find it. Day length drop down. Now we're also going to organize this a bit, but add combo box, add option. Options, clear options. We want to clear that to make sure nothing is in there. Select. No. Make day length. Did I not expose that? Day length. No, it's exposed. So, okay. Let's try to. I'm trying to remember how we populate these. Get day length. select. No, not select, switch. That's what I want. Switch. Switch on E day length. So you can see, and the whole reason for this is I just wanted to bring these through so you could see what our options are visibly here in the blueprint. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 we want to add. So I'm going to do a for loop. First index is 0, last index is 5. Go switch on this. Now this may not be context sensitive. Switch on int. This may not be the most effective. This is just how I'm going to do it. Actually, no. Select. One, two, three. Sorry, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need, yeah. So it is 0 to 5. I'm just going to add these in. 120 minutes, 180 minutes, 240 minutes, and 300 minutes. And this can be down to how you want. It's like half an hour, hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 4 hours. No. 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Wow, my brain is not working. That would have been 150 if it was 2.5. So we can get rid of this now. We're going to compile that and see if that worked to give us our options. And the reason for this is we need these options set up. So you can see they are there. We're going to have to fix our font, obviously, but all right, so we've got those. Now let's fix that font because that's nasty. You can't see it on the black. Default options. Oh, yeah, right there. That tells you how much I work with UI. So let's see, font. I'm just trying to fix the font color, text color. There we go. Jack that up to white. Okay, so what we're going to do there, because I'm an idiot and don't know drop downs within Unreal Engine correctly, we can, no, not main menu, on the graph here. We can get rid of all of this. We don't need that. So we're going to go to our default options and add those in. We have 5, so we have 30 minutes. I'm going to say selected as the first one. 60 minutes, 120 minutes, I'm missing one here, 180 minutes, 240 minutes, and 300 mins. Okay, so let's try this one. Out of the way, please. Thank you. New game, 30 minutes. It's not selected by default, though. Let's see if that makes a difference. Compile. No. Okay, so let's figure that out. Do day length drop down. Selected option. The item in the combo box to be selected by default. Is that what we need? It is. Okay, so stop that. Now I want it to actually be 60 minutes as my default option. So we're going to go there. Now we need to add some functionality to these two buttons here, the back and start. I'm going to go over to our graph. Where did I move my... It's up there. Get rid of those. Move this out of the way. Clean these up a little bit. So, anyways, what we want here is we need our new game back button and new game start button. So, new game back button. Try and find some space on clicked. Move that up here. So this is, we just want it to do the opposite of this. So I'm going to bring this down, copy paste, I should say bring that down. Switch these around. As you can see, I'm not the most efficient person with blueprints and the blueprint functionality. The spaghetti is not my friend. So new game setting menu, we want that to be hidden. Primary menu, we want that to be visible. I understand we could have just switched the pins around as well. I did a lot of unnecessary work there. And then new game start button. So we need to do an on click on there. So first thing we want to do is make game configuration. What? No, okay. So where's our game instance? Set game configuration. There we go. Okay. So make. Did I not expose those? They're public, visible, blueprint read only. All right, so I'm going to save everything I've done here. So this is my own, actually no, I'm going to do it for the purpose of this. I don't want to stop the episode, but so what I did there is I locked these settings to the UI, to code only, which means we can't create a default struct. So what we're going to have to do is set day length, set head bob enabled, and this is just how I'm going to get around because I don't want to really drag this episode on any longer than I need to. So we're going to call the individual functions. Set third person. So okay, so we've got these. Well, third person enabled CB checked is checked. And that is third person. You can pump that one in there. Head bob enabled is checked. Now comes the more complicated process, and that's setting your day length. So day length DD option, get selected option, or is there an int? Get selected. No, that's not the one I want. Get selected index. So the reason why I want get selected index is, well, let's actually get day length and switch. So the reason being is we know our index is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we want to take this because we need to add one. And the reason being is our day length is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, but we only have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that is where actually 0, 2, 0, 1, 2. I need to fix this. I did powers of increment of 2 instead of increment of 1. Okay, so I am going to have to end this episode. Actually, I don't want to. No, I'm not going to end the episode. So what we're going to do, we're going to save all of this. And I just want to check something. You're going to let me plump that in? Nope. So we're going to have to... we don't even need that +1 looking at it, so... we know our index, it should be from 0 to 5. So 30, 60, 120, 180, 240, 3. Well, it's not letting us. So we need to use this. Let's see. Can we... okay, we need to do it that way. So I'm going to get rid of you, plug you in. Okay, so option 0 is 30, 60, 120, 180, 240, and 300. Now, this should go through and set all this information. This is very janky, and I'm going to try and figure out a way to do this in a more clean and concise way. I'm actually going to move this over here. And then we're going to pull this over and pass that through. Actually, nope, we're not going to pass that through. We are going to readjust things here because I didn't have that validation logic in place. So rearrange these. Oh, I forgot to grab you. So we do have this validation logic here, which is what we want. I'm going to break this pin and this pin because we need to move this down to the end of our new game logic. I'm going to get rid of this comment box now because that was just there so I knew where I was looking. Pull you over here. This path should never be hit, but you never know. And now this is why I want to also go through and create a helper function to do this. So it's going to be, I don't know actually. I'll have to think about how I can clean this up because this is really jank in my opinion and could be done a lot better. And again, this is why I don't really work in blueprints, is for some reason I struggle with blueprints, even though I can put things in code 100 times easier. So now we've got this set though. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a breakpoint here, compile. Oh, I got rid of the reference there. I broke that. So that's the one. Is that the one we need? Yeah. Okay, there we go. And we're going to just give this a shot. So hit play, new game. I'm going to set this to 240 minutes. Both of these are going to be enabled, and we're going to hit start. So we're in here, and then let's go into Visual Studio and our game instance and throw breakpoints on all of these. And this is the reason why I wanted to catch this beforehand. Okay, so it's valid. Setting our day length. Maybe that didn't work. Head, that is checked. Okay, that is true. That is checked. And that is true. We're going to continue here. It should bring us back in. We're going to stop because we don't want to do this. I want to figure out what screwed up with the drop down. So bring this back over. No data to do debug. All right, so I'm going to actually end the episode here, folks. There's obviously something I have screwed up with this setting the day length. Let's see, actually print. No. Yeah, I'm going to promote the variable and see. Does that keep things actually? Because there's something going on here that I'm not quite understanding with how that's been defined. Let's try this one more time. No. Oh no, that is okay. And then min 60. Okay, so that is coming through, right? So I'm not quite sure what the issue was. I don't know why that fixed it, but obviously that's not what we want. Let's just get rid of these breakpoints. I'm going to have to look into this a little bit because this isn't making sense to me, but apparently, unless it's just the could it have been that? So these are the things that and the reason why I was wanting to stop the episode is this is exactly what I do when I run into these issues. I tend to obsess, for lack of a better term, to figure out what the actual issue is. So right now it's default. That is 60 minutes. And that is 60. Okay, so it was that make literal that was the issue. All right. Okay, so connect you into there, get rid of you, and get rid of you, because don't need that. Okay. Clean this up. Yeah, there's nothing I can clean up there. Actually, I can do that. But yeah, so now this information is stored in our game instance. I'm just going to do a quick rundown, but I am still going to end the episode because this is going to be a two-parter. We're just crossing the hour mark now. But yeah, so what we've managed to do with all of this is we have got our new game configuration information stored in our game instance. And that is allowing us to pass that information from obviously our main menu through to our actual new game. Now I'm going to close out of all of these, close out of the editor. There is one thing I want to do before we get too carried away is, so 60 minutes. So I wanted to make sure that, because when we are playing in the third person map, playing editor, this is the default that is going to be used, because we're not setting anything through a main menu, so it's just going to use a default constructor. So, but anyways, folks, I'm going to end this episode here. Next episode, we are going to go through and start getting our other classes and everything, such as player character, our player character as part of, let me get to it, there we go, the begin play, alphabetical. Part of begin play, we're going to go through in here, get our game instance, grab that information. It's going to be get head bob enabled, get third person enabled. We're going to set settings. Our stat line is going to grab that to be able to determine how we want to adjust our tick levels, and so on and so forth. So anyways, though, thanks again for watching, folks. As always, any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, please feel free to throw them in the comments below. If I haven't mentioned it in a few episodes, but if you do have any requests for small tutorial videos that I can do one-off, feel free to throw it in the comments as well. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.